there's a good chance you already know what's about to happen next. The opening title sequence for the 1962 James Bond flick, Dr. No, has become just as iconic as Bond himself. It was created by Maurice Binder, who along with other designers like Saul Bass, have made a strong case for the artistic merit of a film's opening title sequence and the role it can play in setting a mood and preparing the viewer to enter the world of the movie they're about to watch. But this begs the question, if movies have been made in the Middle East, and those movies have had opening title sequences, who then are the Saul Basses and Maurice Binders of the Middle East? If there's one place to find the answer, it would have to be the undisputed film capital of the Arab world, Egypt. As it turns out, there was actually a distinct period in the history of Egyptian cinema where quite a few opening title sequences were diverse and interesting works of animation, and there were a handful of designers responsible for them. So let's take a look back at the golden age of the opening title sequence in Egyptian cinema, and give the names behind the credits some long overdue credit.
اتفضلوا بقى اقروا انتوا العناوين وفي المدة اللي بتقروا فيها دي أكون أنا جهزت الفيلم.
The opening title sequence, مقدمة or تتر, has been present at the beginning of Egyptian films ever since the beginning of Egyptian films. The 1930s, 40s, and 50s were a period of ingenuity and innovation, with a lot of clever ideas for how to creatively present a film's title and credits. These opening title sequences used both practical in-camera tricks and post-production techniques, like designing intricate title cards and then filming those, having the credits dissolve in and out and scroll, pairing the credits with caricatures or drawings, and even physically constructing something and then filming it, among other experiments. It's worth noting that most of the opening title sequences from this period weren't credited to any one particular individual, because they were likely a collaborative effort between a director, an editor, and a calligrapher. But then in the 1960s, things got a lot more dynamic. The golden age of the opening title sequence in Egyptian cinema began in the 1960s and would go on until around the mid-1970s. Egypt's animation industry was steadily maturing. Dedicated animation departments and studios were launching, and skills and knowledge of the craft were being passed down and formally taught. As a result, animation made its way into everything from advertising to television to film. And although there were still plenty of movies being released that just opened with plain old credits over stills or footage, this was when true frame-by-frame animation came into the picture, and you started seeing things really move. Like characters, abstract lines and shapes, photos from the film itself, typography, and occasionally a combination of multiple mediums, among other experiments. To get a better understanding of what made the opening title sequences from this period so noteworthy, let's take a look at its most prominent designers and some of their works. Antoun Slim was an animation pioneer from the nascent days of the medium in Egypt, whose earliest works date all the way back to the mid-1930s. In the late 1940s, he began designing opening title sequences for films, which are significant for being among the first to credit the designer. And although he'd already been in the game for a while by the 1960s, he still managed to contribute a couple of lively, animated opening title sequences during this period. Like the one for 1968's Hawa ala Tariq, which tells the story of an outspoken young woman who falls in love with a man pretending to be more progressive than he actually is. The movie opens with a 2-minute animated segment wherein a little girl is frolicking in the forest and playing with not Bugs Bunny until all of a sudden she matures into a woman and immediately gets hit on by men, who then transform into roosters. This segment then transitions to live-action footage of our protagonist, complaining about the hardships of being a woman to her friends over the phone. As for the actual opening title sequence, that comes not too long after, following a scene where one of the young woman's friends questions her assertion that women still can't walk down the street without being leered at by men. This prompts her to propose a defiant social experiment of sorts where they would all go out for a bike ride and see for themselves. Unsurprisingly, the young woman is proven right, and the credits are presented alongside footage of this bike ride with some over-the-top illustrations and animations of gawking onlookers. Brothers Hussam and Ali Muhib played a significant role in the proliferation of animation in Egypt. After being approached in 1961 to found and head the animation department for Egypt's first ever television service, the Egyptian Television Network, the brothers went on to launch their very own animation studio, Studio Muhib, in 1966, which in addition to producing animation for film, television, and ads, also served as a school and training ground for a new generation of Egyptian animators. One of the Muhib brothers' standout works for film was their opening title sequence for 1966's Thalath Lusus, which tells 3 stories about 3 thieves, each with their own unique motives and circumstances. A man who steals some gold jewelry, a man who hijacks a public bus, and a man who robs his aunt. The opening title sequence integrates the credits into some crime and theft-related imagery, like on a cash box that gets unlocked, under a stack of banknotes that get snatched, and on a card that gets covered with inky fingerprints. Each of the 3 stories also have their own separate credits that subtly allude to their respective topics. For the gold thief, a man reaches beyond the borders of one frame to grab some gold jewelry from another. For the bus thief, the credits all appear within a bus stop sign. And for the aunt thief, the credits are presented on a wanted person type document, right beside footage of the suspect posing for his mugshot. Animator and educator Abdel Alim Zaki was a student of the Muhib brothers and played a significant role in popularizing animation in Egypt's advertising industry. Although he produced some great opening title sequences on his own, some of his best work was done in collaboration with his wife, accomplished children's book illustrator Farida Awais. Zeki and Awais's opening title sequences often featured character animation, and their opening title sequence for the 1968 film Alam Mudhik Giddan was no exception. In the film, an elderly princess is on her deathbed, and right before she dies, she tasks her loyal servant with delivering some valuable jewelry to her daughter abroad, revealing to him that the jewelry is hidden inside a particular chair in her palace. Things get complicated, however, when less loyal servants catch wind of this and attempt to claim the fortune for themselves first. This is precisely why the film's opening title sequence prominently features a chair, not only as a design element, but as a character of sorts evading a would-be robber. It scurries away, it hops between train cars, it jumps off the back of a truck, it even just straight up punches the guy in the face. Dalawar Husni, or simply Dalawar, was a prolific designer of opening title sequences during this period, and among the animators recruited by the Muhib brothers to join the Egyptian Television Network's animation department back in 1961. Among his notable works is the opening title sequence for the 1970 heist thriller Nihayat al-Shayateen, wherein 3 criminal friends plan and execute an elaborate bank robbery. It opens with a hand trying to grab an evasive 100-pound banknote that keeps sliding away. And in fact, almost the whole thing revolves around these 2 simple components. The silhouette of a hand is used as a visual element and frame for stills from the movie. Banknotes are used to reveal credits hidden behind them, and the space on the bill that usually depicts a statue of Ramses II is used to frame photos of the actors. Another prolific designer responsible for many opening title sequences, Sayyid al-Shuhari, or just al-Shuhari, got his start in the animation industry at Studio Misr in 1962, where he was actually mentored in the art of title design by Dalawar. In 1972's Al-Khattafin, two brothers are out for revenge after being scammed by a gang of fraudsters, and al-Shuhari's opening title sequence for it wastes no time thrusting us right into the action. Through frenetic, fast-paced edits, the screen gets sliced up and flashes as black and white alternate between one another. Dramatic stills of the actors are juxtaposed against stark silhouettes of guns and gangsters. It's an absolute thrill ride. Believe it or not, Abdul Alim Zaki and Farida Awais weren't the only husband and wife duo who collaborated on opening title sequences. Hamad Hasib and Nawal al-Sayyid were both animators who designed opening title sequences individually, but they also worked on quite a few together and were credited as Hasibu Nawal. One example of their collaborative work is the opening title sequence for 1970's As'ab Gawaz, which tells the story of three sisters from the countryside who run away to the city after their strict father informs them that they'll be getting married to their cousins. We find one of the sisters reading a James Bond novel, before then transitioning to an animated scene playing out in her imagination. In her fantasy, Mr. Bond has been captured by a dastardly villain, and it's her who's the super spy that must leap into action and come to his rescue. But right before she can save the day, she gets interrupted by her sister, switching us back to live action. When the sister goes over to check on her other sister, she finds her gazing out the window longingly, and we then get a peek at what she's imagining, which is a fairy tale-like scenario where she's a princess being terrorized by a ghoul, only to be saved by a knight in shining armor. That daydream is also interrupted by her sister when she starts getting a little too caught up in the fantasy. These are just a few examples of the opening title sequences that were being produced during this golden age, which unfortunately would not last forever. By the mid-1970s, opening title sequences became noticeably more static and a lot less ambitious. Although there was still some very apparent and impressive artistry on display, even some of the best opening title sequences that were being produced felt less like entertaining pieces of animation that could be independently appreciated, and more like aesthetically appealing slideshows with minimal motion. So what happened? Well, animation is expensive, and the money just wasn't there anymore. In the early 1960s, then-President Gamal Abdel Nasser had kicked off an initiative to nationalize Egypt's cinema industry, which meant more government support, bigger budgets, and higher quality output. However, this initiative would come to an end in 1971, following his death a year earlier. The 1973 Arab-Israeli War also took a toll on Egypt's economy and forced the film industry, which by then was completely privately funded, to become more commercially oriented and prioritize profit over quality. Nevertheless, veteran designers al-Shuhari and Nawal remained active until the early 2000s, and Nawal, who continued designing opening title sequences on her own after her husband and partner Hasib opted to pursue writing instead, is today considered by many to be the most prolific designer of opening title sequences in the history of Egyptian cinema. In many ways, the story of the opening title sequence in Egyptian cinema is the story of Egyptian cinema itself, and it's a story that's still ongoing to this very day. The Golden Age may have just been one chapter of this story, but it was an undeniably significant one. Egyptian animators who were still trying to figure out their relatively new but growing industry were given the opportunity to showcase their craft to the masses. They left their mark on the history of Egyptian cinema and proved exactly why their names belonged right there among the stars.
نزل العناوين. متشكر قوي يا جماعه.